Okay, so here we go. We're doing the signal box building. Like I said before, right, it's basically everything we've used already, just reformatting it in a different way so that it works for us. So we're going to start off by creating a surface for the facade itself. We're going to offset that surface so that it sits a little bit off of the original glazing. Then we're going to subdivide it into panels. Then we're going to subdivide it into points. Then we're going to rotate those points. Then we're going to remap a curve and then loft it back together in order to create this. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So the first step really is to create the surface. And when I created the model itself, I modeled it with curves and then I extruded it backwards. Depending on what your model has in it when you create yours, it might have a curve or it might just have an open surface with volumes, in which case you would have to model in a curve to reference. But for us, we can very easily just reference this curve in. So I'm going to just go to curve, and actually I think I can just reference it in as a surface if I'm not mistaken. So set one surface, see if I can just do, no you can't, sorry. I have to do a curve and set one curve, and I'll go to the middle one, not the outside one, just the inside one. And then when you plug that into surface, it'll transition your curve into a surface. And then I mentioned that we're going to offset that surface so that we can, in realistic terms, actually have it sit in front of the glazing that it's supposed to be blocking. So we'll go to Surface and Utility and Offset. And offset is going to require three things. It's going to ask for the surface that you're offsetting, the distance that you're offsetting, which is going to be a measure of positive or negative in the normal direction, and then the retrim. I forget exactly what retrim does. I'll figure it out someday though. Anyway, so the surface gets plugged in, and you might want to pay attention to which direction it's going, because when you plug in your slider for, say, anything from, I don't know, we'll go 0 to 1 foot. So I'm just going to say 0 is less than 0.55-ish, less than 1. But my model's in feet. So actually, no, yeah, 0 to 0.55-ish is fine. It depends on whether or not you wanted to do it by inches, and then you would have to do divided by 12. Anyway, so 0.5 is going to be 6 inches. And so just make sure that it's going on the outside of your building, not the inside of your building. Okay, so from there, we have to subdivide it and then get our individual louver panels. So that basically looks like, well, actually, I'll ask you, do you remember how to do that? What tool am I going to use? Come on, guys. We've used it in pretty much every form generation class that we've done so far. It's a triangle configuration. One of them comes from surface, one of them comes from domain. Be prepared for a quiz on Tuesday, guys. All right, so we really got to get out of this me just walking you through it stuff. So I am going to start incorporating some mini quizzes that's going to help you work through how to remember this stuff. So we're going to use under Utility, IsoTrim. Yeah, well, that one, yeah. All right, and then the other one under Domain, you guys remember yet? Which one? All right, it's divide domain squared. Yeah, that one. All right. So these, always remember when you're doing these kinds of like panelization subdivisions, they come in a triangle, right? The surface on one end, the subdivide surface on the other, and the connective tissue beneath it is the divide domain squared, which determines how you're subdividing it. So from that, we can use the U and the V domain. We can just determine what we're going to subdivide it by. And for me, the way I did it is I just made a slider from 0 to 25-ish. Might change. But plug that into both. And make sure that you're kind of looking at your view here to ensure that the direction of your horizontal subdivisions is the one that you're increasing. So keep your U count at, say, 1, and your V count can go to whatever you need it to be. If you're having trouble viewing like I am, I just have too many things turned on, so I got to turn them off. And there we go. So far, so good, right? I see some head shaking. This concerns me. You guys should have this stuff down pat by now. All right, I'm going to stop this video here before we move in. Actually, I'll throw one more on. So after that, what is the tool that we need in order to isolate the particular faces or edges or points or vertices? Anybody? The tool that we use to deconstruct the subdivided surfaces. Huh? What was that, Jack? No. Close, but no. It's deconstruct brep. So I mentioned that, and it's under surface and analysis and deconstruct brep. Plug that in, then you can isolate your faces, your edges, or your vertices. So before I stop this video, I just want to reiterate that I mentioned that these three, or the one on the left being the offset, that one is a variable, it changes all the time, but you're always going to have those two components in a triangular configuration with a surface, right? Typically, if I'm subdividing a surface, panelizing it, like I'm doing with a divide domain squared, 80% of the time, I'm putting a deconstruct brep on the end of it. So get used to knowing all of these components very, very well. And I would say get used to knowing these components by Tuesday of next week. It's time to crack down.